Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to bring you more information from the 25th dimension. This is information I received during my last BQH Beyond Quantum Healing session with my good friend Lorraine. And hello, Lorraine, if you're watching this. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And also, please do give this video a thumbs up. It takes 1 second for you to do this, and it really helps me. I know sometimes we don't realize how much these things help build the algorithm. Very simply, I'll be able to reach more people by you doing that. And I think this information is definitely worth spreading to anybody who might be looking for it. Also, please do leave me a comment below the video to let me know how you're doing, what's going on in your life. Is the stuff resonating with you? How are you hanging in there? Because we're going through a lot. So I do like the idea that we have a community here that is open-minded to talking about these things, whereas many of us might not have this in our daily reality. All right, let's move forward. I'll be reading from the transcript. Just as an FYI, I have a couple of questions initially that I have already told you about. I've given you the answer from 25th in the series that I did where the 25th was answering questions from you guys. There is a reason I left these questions in to get us started on this video, because the 25th refers to things and I didn't want you guys not to be clear on what they were referring to. So we'll just be a couple of minutes of quote unquote repetition. I know it helps me. I reread these things all the time because there is so much that they're telling us. So hopefully you don't mind if you already watched that video. If you have not watched that video, definitely go and check it out. Again, I did a series of 4 videos on answers, to your questions. And those were pretty cool. You guys have some really interesting questions. All right, let's get started. So this video will start off again with a question from Megumi. I'm sorry, Agari Megumi. Megumi is our last name. And the question is, how does an essence choose a body to come into? Do they consider country of birth, family lineage, IQ level, skin color, that kind of thing? Says it will affect the experience of the essence. How does one essence choose? Me. Yes, we choose everything about our experience. And when something doesn't quite suit us, we might change it as soon as we come into the body. We might cause certain things to happen. So yes, we choose everything about an experience. So we choose, do we want to incarnate in a woman or a man? Do we want to incarnate in an animal? We know our teammates choose to come into animals. So we choose where we incarnate. Everything that sets us up to have the experience, we decide that we want to have. And that would include anything that has to do with the body as well. Because we all well know, very well know, that certain types of bodies will give you the ability to do certain things that other types of bodies will not. For example, if I wanted to become a basketball player and I wanted to experience that, I wouldn't be choosing a body that maybe is 4 feet tall. And so we do choose everything based on these experiences that we want to have. We consider everything when we choose the body we come into. Lorraine, thank you. So on that note, in regards to mental illness like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, these are experiences that the essence wants to experience, and what causes these illnesses. And again, these were questions that were answered in one of those videos, and they were posed, the questions, by EDC and ETH. And again, you'll understand why I left these in here, why they're a good preamble to what comes next. Me. No, that is interesting because, and this is unfortunately due to the fact that we've lost our polarity a long time ago. We've never been able to regain it. Well, the essence, of course, always chooses. The essence is always free. The essence has the ability to heal any condition, truly. The essence could regrow a limb if it chose to do that, because you understand these avatars are not real. They're real in the way that we think of them, but as you know, nothing is really real on this planet, not even this planet. So why do we have these conditions here? It's really a matter of the energy. There is this dense energy on this planet, and unfortunately, a lot of the bodies and essences are subject to it. And a lot of bodies are not necessarily able to recalibrate themselves when they are in contact with this type of energy, or something goes quote unquote wrong at some point in their lives. and the body is not able to calibrate or is slow to recalibrate on its own. Because again, the body is capable of doing many things, but it does require more time than any essence would. But the essence might be interested in not resolving the situation, but be interested at that point, being presented with a type of experience that it might or might have not forecasted or projected, might realize that actually that experience allows it to have the experience, or to go towards an experience that the essence is interested in feeling, in living through. And or the essence might even decide, I'm done. This is not working. This NPC is not working for me anymore. This body is not working. And they might leave. And they might leave for a little while, or they might leave forever. So this also happens. It happens a lot. We've discussed this before when we spoke about dementia. Dementia is the body looping, the body left behind by the essence looping. The body cannot handle the energy, cannot handle the absence of the essence, and that's what's happening. At the same time, oh, sorry guys, no, and the same thing, we've been asked about bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. That's exactly what's happening. The energy, the body's not able to calibrate on its own, and the essence might either be going or gone, which doesn't mean the essence will never come back, but it might be gone for long periods of time, or the essence might actually be interested at that point in experiencing this thing, because maybe it's teaching them something else, or perhaps they don't have to deal with a lot of things. You have to understand a lot of the conditions that we consider troublesome, very troubling, I should say very troubling, because of course they affect the family, and we assume the person is suffering, or we might even see them suffering when they do have moments of lucidity, or really they're not necessarily negative in the way we think of it from a 3D perspective. This might actually be achieving not only a purpose for the essence, but the essence might actually have the ability through this experience to be left alone. Maybe the essence is tired of being told what to do, or of living in an unhappy relationship or in an unhappy condition. And all of a sudden, they're okay with this happening because it's actually easier for them. It is easier for the essence to focus on certain realities or other experiences they want to have. So again, once again, we will remind you that not everything is as it seems from the outside, from a 3D perspective. And I know this is very hard to step away from the 3D perspective when you're dealing with these situations as a family member. So I know this is not easy. Lorraine, will this also apply to autism and those along the spectrum of autism as well? I know many people believe that their autistic children, sorry guys, this is my cat, causing an earthquake. All right, let me just repeat that question. Lorraine, will this also apply to autism and those along the spectrum of autism as well? I know many people believe that their autistic children are more highly developed, more highly existing within their essence level more. Me, that is correct. The autism, we realize and we understand that families dealing with an autistic child are in a lot of pain. We realize this, maybe. At the same time, it does not mean that the essence of the child is in pain. Now, we know that there have been cases where the autism, or a lot of people believe that the autism is tied to these things. And of course, there have been parents seeing their children in extreme physical pain. Claire's heard of awful situations where the child would be banging their head against the wall because of this. And it makes me, I'm reading this and it makes something like a knot to go up in my throat every time I think about these things. I can't even imagine seeing your child in that kind of situation. But you also have to keep in mind that these essences either, again, may have chosen to be gone and just come back here once in a while. So truly the essence may not be having this experience, or in this case, it would be the body having issues with what has been introduced or with the essence being gone. And again, this thing only becomes a trigger for an experience that's been desired. That said, we will qualify this because we don't want anybody to think that this is something we wished would happen. This situation, these choices to go through what we do consider to be painful from a 3D experience. They've only been introduced because of the lack of balance in the polarity. We never wish for this to happen. We never wish for children or anyone to suffer through the injection of certain substances that immediately, we talked about these being codes, immediately will take you into a reality that can be quite painful. And that the NPC, and we knew this, the NPC might not be able to handle, and therefore we see all the suffering. So yes, to answer your question, autism, absolutely, very often this is chosen by the essence because they do want to be free of a lot of the 3D constraints that we put on people that we consider normal. What is a normal person? Is a person who deals with a lot of constraints and limiting beliefs and a lot of suffering that just looks different. Whereas the autistic person many times, in many instances, in many ways, is much freer. So yes, we should not be looking down on this condition just because it is difficult for the family to handle sometimes. And our heart goes out to these families because it is difficult from a 3D perspective to deal with all of this. And also there has been, once again, there has been a lot of denseness here that we never wished for, that has caused a lot of suffering that was not needed and was not necessarily desired by most of us. There has been a lot of backfiring, a lot of bad ideas have been allowed to run on this planet. Lorraine. So the thing could be said about Down syndrome as all the other things you've explained. That me, yes, absolutely, yeah. And so just to give a short answer to all these questions, while these people might seem to be challenged, truthfully, there is nothing wrong with these people. The way that we in 3D think of these things, there is nothing wrong with that. There is, of course, we do not wish suffering on anybody, but if you notice, most of the suffering happens at the level of the family, the people around them who are within the constraints of 3D and who are concerned. How will this child survive without me? How will this child be happy? The children are happy. The children don't have a problem with being autistic. The children don't have a problem with having Down syndrome. Does this mean they're always happy? That the children are always happy? Of course not. None of us are always happy on this planet. We wish we would always be happy, and that's been the problem from the beginning. We consider certain emotions to be of lower rank and to be rejected, and this is what has caused this polarity. But at the same time, these children, these people with Down syndrome or autism, they are no different from anybody else. They're having their own experience, and many times they're much freer than we are, and actually much happier than we are too. And this was very comforting to me. I really love this answer. I hope you do too. Lorraine, yes, thank you. All right, so NPCs are sometimes born with a condition, and then the essence has the ability to choose a body with one of these conditions. Is this how it works? Me. Yes, the essence can choose an NPC that is missing their hands because maybe the essence wants to explore creativity without being able to write or to paint or whatever it might be. Absolutely. Lorraine, on that same note, if the condition develops after birth, would this be because the essence is choosing or wanting to experience that? Me. The essence will set up everything that develops with the body, including, we already have spoken about this, including cancer. The essence can heal or cause anything in a split second. So yes, whatever idea the essence wants to latch onto will manifest. And therefore, the essence might choose to manifest a disease that takes time to manifest. Or the essence might choose to get into a car accident and all of a sudden it loses its legs. This is not, there is no accident. The essence chooses everything. Lorraine, why would an essence want an experience like that when there is no need for growth? And a more challenging experience is not usually as fun as one without challenges, whether physical or mental or even financial. And the whole point of being here is to have fun. Me. So there are two reasons for this. One, as we said, which is what happens most of the time, the essence actually does want to just have a different experience. And when, from a 3D perspective, the body gets over the accident, you know, the consequences of an accident, for example, where they did lose their legs or the use of their legs. Normally the essence, this will be a time for the essence to wake up. It will be like a wake-up call, like what happens to a lot of people who do survive cancer or other diseases. So it will be exactly the same. It's not that the challenge in life is being chosen because we have to improve ourselves, but because we want to focus on different things. And therefore, the essence is being impeded in some ways by, for example, a perfectly functioning body. So the body does not want to wake up. We ignore our dreams. We ignore our higher self. And all of a sudden, we have to make something happen so that we may achieve our goals, our purposes for this life. So when we say that we're here to have fun, not everything might look as fun from a 3D perspective, but it doesn't mean that the essence is not achieving its purpose. And again, the purpose is never to grow as an essence. There is no such thing, but it's mostly because we have a lifetime and we choose as an essence, what do we want to focus on? And sometimes what we want to focus on is being stopped by a certain condition, which we might consider being healthy. We're not waking up. Clea was not waking up. Cancer was helpful in this. Cancer allowed her to get rid of a lot of things in her life that weren't serving her, that she didn't want anymore, without her having to do a lot of work. She got cancer, and all of a sudden, all these things resolved themselves. So what we again, excuse me. So what we again, from the outside, consider as being negative experiences, sometimes they're very easy solutions for the essence. And again, the essence could cure its legs, the legs of the NPC, in a second if they wanted to. We wanted to explain something else. We said there were two reasons for this. The second reason also, sometimes these things do happen, and they happen because, again, a lot of choices here are not as, we want to explain this properly. A lot of choices here on this planet do not happen in a vacuum. Nowhere else really they happen in a vacuum. And because of the denseness and the low vibration in this reality, the low range of vibrations, sometimes an essence makes a choice that might seem more dramatic than what it would have had to do in other cases. For example, what if in essence, we will give an example, hopefully to clarify. What if in essence is tired of being an athlete? How can it stop? There are people counting on it to be an athlete, to perform. An easy way to stop this would be to be in an accident or to injure oneself and not have to compete anymore. The essence had no other way of making this happen. And all of a sudden, the 3D body is left with a situation where everybody else thinks this is horrible. But the essence might be very excited. Now it gets to focus on something else. What we are trying to communicate here is that, once again, not everything is as it appears. There are goals that are being reached by essences in doing things that don't look positive by our judgment in 3D, that truly are positive overall for the arc, for the experience of the essence, what it has set up for itself. We chain events so as to get us to where we want to be. So we cannot judge from the outside just because we see something and think, oh, that's bad, that's very sad. That might not be the case at all. It was not a sad thing that Clea got cancer. I want to say something here. We know when something like this is being chosen by the person, even though it might have been subconscious. We might still believe from a 3D perspective in accidents and all of this, but we know when the essence or when the person is taking advantage of a certain thing to bring something new in their life that they really wanted. And I'll give you an example that my boyfriend always tells me about. He has a friend who used to be a champion, like a tennis champion, for a professional and a really good tennis player for several years. And she didn't want to do this. She was being pushed by her mother. She was being pushed by her family. It was really tough for her. It was a lot of work. She just wanted to do something else. She injured herself. And it was a minor injury. And because of that, she put on a lot of weight. And all of a sudden, she had the excuse to not do this anymore. She said, oh, no, I've been out of this for 2 years, where somebody else might have gotten better from that. And, within a few weeks or a few months, she let 2 years go by. She goes, well, now it's too hard to recondition myself. So she knew very well that this injury, she may have not known that she made it happen on her own or out of her own volition. But she was very clear on the fact, oh, look what a great thing just happened to me. I'm going to use this. And again, she might have not been fully conscious in the beginning about what she was doing, but she was very clear on this after the fact, and to the point that other people also were aware of it, including my boyfriend. So I wanted to bring this up as a case in point that, this totally resonates with me. I mean, I've seen it, again, we sometimes have experiences in real life that we can relate this to. Lorraine. It truly is an amazing thing when you look at it from the higher perspective of us just wanting experiences. On that note, and if you've answered this question, well, she says, and you've answered this question, but because Claire has written it down, I'm going to ask, is there a value in having a challenging 3D life, like homelessness, being orphaned, being sexually abused? Or is it just an experience, which means that we don't have to have it if we don't want it? Me. So we already explained this, but we will take the opportunity to clarify one more time. There is no value in terms of us improving ourselves. There is value if the essence wants to have it. There is value in anything that the essence wants to experience. However, unfortunately, in situations like, for example, sexual abuse or physical abuse of any kind, does it need to be that way? Is that the only choice that the essence has available? No, it isn't. However, because we are on this planet and there is a negative polarity, and we're out of balance, these choices, these ideas are available. And some of us will avail ourselves of them for lack of better options. So on other planets, the essence might want to experience what sexual abuse will bring as a follow-up, awakening, or whatever the objective of the essence might be in taking on this idea. But the essence will be able to achieve that through much more pleasant means in a different reality that wasn't so unbalanced. So while the essence chooses, unfortunately, we on this planet have a lot of limitations in terms of our choices. This is where free will was turned on its head. And this has been the problem in why we're taking this down. A lot of things, a lot of ideas have been introduced on this planet that we never really wished for. They were a surprise. We did not plan properly. We could not forecast what would come out of it. So a lot of these experiences, while they still will achieve the purpose of the essence, they're not ideal experiences necessarily. We have never wanted to see children, for example, being sexually abused, and yet here we are. And there are essences that are going through that. Is it their choice? Yes, of course it's their choice. You cannot enslave an essence. However, is this something that we wanted to have as a choice? No, nobody did. Nobody wants to have that. We could have achieved the same goals for the essence in much more pleasant ways. Unfortunately, these are the ideas that are available here, and some essences will choose that idea. This is because of a lack of polarity. So now we see it in real life, the way that it shows up, the way it manifests here. So challenging lives do not per se make you any better or give you any value beyond the fact that, yeah, the essence gets to have an experience. It does not mean we wish for these experiences to be unpleasant. If there were more pleasant ways of achieving the same purpose, the essence would probably choose that. But because we are in a low vibration environment, unfortunately, we have a lot of negative choices available to us, a lot of negative options, or I should say more unpleasant options available. Do animals choose to be tortured? They don't. Can they be enslaved? No, really, the essence cannot be enslaved. But guess what? They are tortured on a daily basis. Billions of animals are killed on a daily basis. We never wanted this to be the way. This has all gone awry. And I think we can all agree with this. I did want to make a comment about this because I've been thinking about this a lot because of all these things that I am now sharing with you. These bodies, even though the essence is doing whatever it wants to do, these bodies matter. The happiness of these bodies matters. So when this body gets hurt, the essence might be all enthralled that it gets, a chance to learn something, or not learn as in, improving itself, but like have this new experience in that sense, experience something new. But again, the body's suffering, and we, as in between these dimensions, we're aware of it, and it's not fun. When I went through my dark night of the soul that lasted 5 years, and I had cancer, I understand what happened, and I'm grateful. But I was in hell while I was going through it. Would I have wished to have that experience differently, or to have the result of that experience differently? I would change it in a minute. I have always been surprised by people, and I mentioned actually in my book, I wrote a book about this entire experience and much more, because I've had a very unusual life, called Untamed and Free. If you're interested, I actually have a link in the description box below if you want to check it out. But basically, I've talked about this before. I always see people saying, oh, I would never change, I regret nothing, when they had maybe a situation, a very difficult situation, it's made me the person that I am. Yes, absolutely. The point is that we have certain experiences so that it brings us an objective we've been after, and that's great. But what I never hear anybody say is, and I was very clear on this from the beginning, would I rather have a different experience to get to where I'm trying to get to? Absolutely, 100 times. I'm never going to be the person that says, I'm so glad I went through that. Was it worth it? Yes, in hindsight, it was. I wouldn't be here talking to you right now if I hadn't gone through all of that. But am I happy that it happened that way? No. And this is why the stuff resonates for me so much. The fact that, yes, can you enslave in essence? No. So that's good. That's great. But unfortunately, we live on a planet where there's a lot of very low vibrational choices available. And sometimes we don't have the equivalent high vibration, happier choice available to us to come to become awake. I know people awaken on other planets in higher dimensions all the time, because this is what we do as souls. But over there, they don't have to have cancer, or even if they do have cancer, they can go into, I don't know, a med bed and get it cured in 12 minutes. Here, it's not quite that easy for us, is it? Or sexual abuse, it doesn't exist on other planets. And they still figure out ways to awaken. So that's what the 25th wanted us to know. And I can, as I said, I very much relate to this. And this is the reason why, besides the sadness of taking this down, I'm really so excited for all this to end, because every time I think about any of the things that are happening here, I can't even handle it. So I hope this brings you some comfort in knowing that there is a purpose behind all these choices. The essence is also always winning in that sense. It's always getting what it wants. And I think it's important to remember this when we look around us and we do see situations that are much less than ideal. So I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.